So more and more protests are starting to happen all across this country because people truly are fed up with MAGA. They're fed up with Donald Trump and Elon Musk, and they're getting out there and letting their voices be heard. I've been to more protests since Trump just got reelected than I've been to in many years. I feel like that protesting is important as long as you do so peacefully. I think it's about lifting up your voices, getting your ideas out there. It's also about, to me, building a stronger community and networking with people and hearing people's stories, hearing their ideas, and figuring out how we go about staying in this fight and taking it to MAGA. So while I was out going to these protests, I met Corwin Lester. Corwin is part of the United Volunteers of Tennessee. And he and I had a great conversation out there the day at the protest, and then he agreed to come on the channel and talk with me more about it. So we had a really good conversation here about protesting and what it means to protest, how to stay safe at these protests, and how to go about building better communities. If you want to check out the entire interview that I did with Corwin, you can check it out on my Patreon, which is linked in the description of this video. But I really do believe you're going to enjoy this conversation, especially if you're wanting to get out and do more protesting. So we'll go to that now, and I hope everyone really enjoys it. All right, Corbin, I want to thank you so much for taking time out here today to sit down and talk with me. We met a few weeks ago in Nashville at the 5051 protest and met a lot of good people that day. A lot of people out lifting up their voices because so many people are really tired of everything that's going on with this administration. So just wanted to welcome you to the show and let everybody know, how it was that you got involved with 5051 and what they're all about.
All right. Well, yeah, 5051 is it started off as 50 protests in 50 states on one day. And it kind of turned into something more than that. It's 50 protests in 50 states is one movement now. It's kind of like an idea. It's a banner for anyone to fight for democracy and fight for our rights, right? Um, and so I got involved with 5051 right at the start. And like most people, I was looking to get involved in more state actions, right? How can I personally get involved? And 5051 points to various state organizations on their website, on their subreddit, which is how I got involved with it. And I got pointed to the United Volunteers of Tennessee, which I joined. Um, and they needed someone to help work the national protest on March 4th, and I hopped in. I had never led a protest before. I had never really even given a speech before. Um, so that was a learning experience there. And honestly, I was blown away by the people, the energy that were involved, and all the personal stories that came out of it. Because I'm just a guy, I have my causes I'm aware of and that I fight for, but for me, it's just so much better to let other people speak and speak about their own causes because they're talking about things I'm not even aware of, bills that might be affecting us, how the federal actions of the government might be impacting our state and us as Tennessee residents. And it was amazing, honestly.
Yeah, that's one thing that I experienced too coming out to these protests was how many people were out there and how many had stories. And it was really good to get to meet people, and they were bringing up stuff that I wasn't
Yeah,
aware of, or bringing up angles of thought that I
yeah,
hadn't thought on
yeah,
yet. But one thing that I noticed going out there talking with people, I would be having a really good conversation with someone, and I think, well, this would be a good video for the channel. This idea needs to be heard by more
yeah.
people, and so I would say to people, I would be like, hey, you wanna like get a mic and do a video with me, and and immediately I started kind of pumping the brakes because a lot of people right now are scared to protest. So
Yeah.
what would be your advice to people out there who are worried right now about protesting and letting their faces be seen? And it's really sad that we're in this situation, man. It really is. People should be allowed to protest without fear, but we have Trump, threatening
Yeah.
about illegal protesters and things of that nature. So what would you say to people who right now are worried about getting out and getting involved in these kind of protests?
I mean, I would say that they're right to be worried, right? One, because of the administration that's kind of emboldening these actions to take away our voices and our rights to protest. But on top of the federal actions by Trump and the government, there's also, I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we're surrounded by white supremacist organizations and like the Patriot Front has a headquarters at Tellico Plains. And then I've had flyers in my neighborhood from the KKK announcing a gathering Yeah, like was it some tri-state gathering or something like that. So I understand why people are afraid to put their face out there because it might mean them risking their job or their personal safety. There's been stories of people getting death threats for doing so. So when it comes to advice for people, I mean, everyone needs to exercise their own best judgment, right? I'm not going to tell people that they need to put themselves out there and put themselves at risk. And it's a privilege for me to be able to do this. Um, so, but I would just say, don't be afraid. At
Yeah,
some point, you have to stand up for your beliefs, right? And you gotta
that's
you
right.
gotta risk it for the biscuit.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I tell people that all the time
Yeah,
because there's people that will say to me they wish they could do what I do, put videos out there in the world, but
yeah,
they're in situations where they can't, and so
yeah,
I totally understand, and I'm always very understanding to people when they say that, and a lot of times people will reach out to me and they'll talk, and then I'll take their idea or whatever they heard, and I'll say, hey, I was talking to a listener, and we were talking
yeah,
about this, and that way it kind of gets it out there, but you know one of the things that I feel is that love MAGA or hate MAGA, they've definitely built up this community, and that's why they feel so empowered to
yeah,
speak the way they speak, is because they've built up this community, love it or hate it, that works for them. So how
yeah.
do we go about building better communities to where people will feel more empowered and comfortable speaking up?
One, I think it's through organizations like I'm with right now, the United Volunteers of Tennessee, and I'm also here to represent Indivisible Tennessee. And the United Volunteers of Tennessee is like they're aiming to be a coalition of organizations within Tennessee, activist organizations, progressive organizations, and they're trying to build networks of communication, community, and help people collaborate with one another so that even if one person can't stand out and stand up, other people can. Like that's how I'm being able to do what I'm doing here, right? Um, and we want anyone that believes in democracy in making sure that everyone has a voice to hook up with the United Volunteers of Tennessee. We've got groups in Memphis, Chattanooga, and Knoxville, Nashville, and some of the Tri Cities even. And I think that's kind of the answer is to work from the ground up. I know that the right's been working with Fox News and Rush Limbaugh and all these talking heads for decades now, and that's definitely been powerful. But I believe that community action is the right answer to these problems, right?
Yeah.
And that's what groups like the United Volunteers of Tennessee and Indivisible Tennessee are trying to address, right?
And what would be the easiest way for people to get in touch with those groups, and what would be the easiest way for them to get in on and help out with it?
I mean, the easiest way is by going to either of our websites. We have uvotin.org for the
Okay.
United Volunteers of Tennessee, and then there's also Indivisible Tennessee. So
Okay.
you can go to their website, and then it'll point to Indivisible Tennessee, and then it'll point to whatever city you might be involved with, and there you can get in contact with your closest organization, right?
Yeah, and I will be sure to put all those links in the
Yeah,
description of this video so anyone watching can know where to find them, and so everyone just be sure to look for those links in the
yeah,
video, in the description of the video. One question I have is, how do we go about reaching the other side, or as far as we're out there, we're protesting, and they feel comfortable at the moment because their guy won, but how do we go about having those tough discussions? Because one thing I hear a lot is we have to get out there and have those hard discussions with people. So how do you see us ever reaching that other side, or is it even possible?
it's a hard question to answer, man.
It
Personally,
really is. I know it is.
yeah, I believe strongly in democracy and
Hmm.
everyone having a voice, and that includes people that we disagree with, right? We're not this administration. We're not authoritarians. We're not tyrants. We want to fight for everyone to have a voice, right? And again, that includes people like my parents who probably aren't on my side of the political spectrum. It includes a lot of my friends, a lot of the people I grew up with that who I love, but you know are hard to have conversations with sometimes, especially at Thanksgiving. I'm sure everyone has
Yeah.
that story, right?
Oh man, we all do, and especially being here in Tennessee. I'm just about
Yeah.
40. I'm just about 40 miles north of you, man. And so, me and my parents, luckily we see eye to eye on it. I'm lucky in that
Yeah.
department, but I do have some extended family that Thanksgiving can be awkward around, and especially doing
Yeah.
what I do now. It's I was a musician for over 20 years, and so used to it would be like, hey Brando, where are you playing at next, or what kind of songs have you wrote lately? And now it's like they don't really want to know what I was doing because they know.
Yeah.
So, but we,
Me.
we we can we can continue to lift up our voices and let them be heard, and I think
Yeah.
and helping people to understand. Because around here in Tennessee, I tell people that aren't from here all the time, and I'm sure it's this way in different parts of the South, but
Yeah.
we're raised up in this environment where we're taught that Democrats are evil and progressives are evil, liberals are evil.
Yeah.
It comes right from the pulpits and the churches. Our ministers preach that stuff, and from a very young age, we get taught that. And so,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't understand that we like you said, we're for democracy, and we believe everyone
Hmm.
should have a fair shake in this world. It's not about giving. I always say this on the channel. It's not about giving people handouts. It's about making sure everyone has a fair hand to play. And so, how do you think we can better go about getting that out there to let people know we're not the devil here. We're not
Yeah.
the bad guys. We
Yeah.
really have your best interest at heart.
To this, I'll actually point to Indivisible, Tennessee.
Hmm.
They actually have what they call a rural radio channel.
Wow.
To where they I mean call it like Voice of America in Europe or something like that, where they try and reach out to rural Americans you know, whose only political information may be Fox News, right? Some way of breaching that bubble, right? And they'll actually go out to these rural communities, one providing aid when they need it, and then mobilizing what little Democratic presence there might be in those places, right? There's still some Dixiecrats in a lot of areas of Tennessee, um,
Yeah.
but they try their hardest and their best to get through it. And for me, it is really just opening that forum for people we disagree with. I know at that protest on March 4th, I caught a lot of flack because I gave the microphone. I was giving the microphone to everyone that wanted to speak, right?
Hmm.
Regardless of where they've come from, what they look like, or whatever.
Yeah.
And we had a guy come up there who was definitely a Republican and a MAGA, and I let him speak.
Yeah.
Um, and I caught a lot of flack for that. But honestly, you can't really have a rally for democracy if you're
That's it.
silencing people you disagree with.
That's right. And before we go, man, one more time, just let everyone know where they can find you and what you're doing, and I'll be sure to tag the links here in this video.
Yeah. Again, the United Volunteers of Tennessee, you can get their contact information from the United Volunteers of Tennessee.org. And the same with Indivisible Tennessee. If you go to indivisible.com's main site, you can figure out which state you want to get involved with. For us, it'd be Tennessee, and that'll point you right to Indivisible Tennessee, and sign up for their email list. United Volunteers of Tennessee has a Discord group you can join, and I think their website points to that. So that's a way more immediate way you can get involved in taking action, right?
All right, man, that sounds great. I'll be sure to tag those links, and man, best of luck to you. If you ever need anything, just reach out. We'll get anytime.
Yeah,
You're welcome back here anytime, man. You got something you want to talk about? Let me know. We'll fire it
awesome,
up and do
dude.
it, man.
Yeah, we've got some events coming up that I think you may be excited for,
Oh,
especially these no-show town halls that both Indivisible and Tennessee and Yvonne's going to be being a part of, because Republicans across the country have decided they're not going to do town halls anymore.
yeah,
So we'll we'll have some fun. We're gonna try and invite out some big Democratic voices to some of these,
yeah,
if not big ones, then small ones too,
yeah.
and they'll be interesting.
That will be, man. Well, always best of luck to you, and come back anytime.
Yeah, thanks, Brando.
Thank you.